Good morning from Ghana, everybody, and welcome to Financial Inclusion Africa and Fintech Magazine Africa live podcast with Papa Kwame Anani, founder and CEO of Great Parrot IO. Digital
Hi, everybody.
transformation. Digital transformation and innovation is a very important conversation today in Africa, and it is clearly a driver of financial inclusion. And so today, the conversation will certainly center on the growth of Great Parrot IO and the kind of objectives that they have set for themselves to be able to deliver innovative products and solutions to drive financial inclusion. So at this point, I would like to introduce once again Papa Kwame Anani. Papa Kwame, can you just introduce yourself to everyone this morning from Accra, Ghana?
Good morning, everyone. Um, Accra is fine. It's a bit rainy, cooler than normal. My name is Papa Kwame Anane. Um, Most people call me Papa, depending on where you're coming from. But if you're Ghanaian, you know exactly how to pronounce my name. Now, I founded Grey Parrot 7 years ago after 7 years in banking. So in total, I have about almost 14 years of providing solutions to banks and regulated financial institutions. What happened was I was originally a software engineer with great ambitions to build something like the next Facebook in Africa. It seemed crazy at the time. And I actually had no idea that banks actually needed tech, banks needed software platforms, people who understand how to use technology to actually solve problems. So in 2011, I had this opportunity to interview with First Capital Plus, which was a regulated savings and loans at the time. And in all honesty, I actually walked in with a 50-50 mind approach because I was like, what do banks do? And the naive understanding of banking at the time for people on the outside was a bank branch. People have no idea that before you see the bank branch, there's a lot that has gone behind the scene. The bank branch is just a channel. I really had no understanding of that. I was young. I mean, we are talking over a decade ago. But what caught my eye was First Capital Plus was actually ahead of the curve at the time. And they had a fantastic product. At when I
Right.
met one of the directors, the executive director, he pulled out his phone. He showed me how they were ensuring that the underbanked and the underserved in hard to reach places in terms of the banking channel were able to make deposits, real-time deposits by purchasing scratch cards and sending to a text message. So imagine this. You are able to buy a scratch card of the value of money that you want to save in your account. You text it to a short code. This is SMS. This is even before USSD became very powerful. You text it to a short code and you are given instant credit. It blew my mind. And immediately my mind started firing. I began to see ways and means by which we could improve the solution. And I was the first software engineer that was actually employed at the time. So that changed my perspective. There are funny stories. I mean, being an engineer or a techie by spirit and by profession. I remember on my first day, I turned up to work dressed like a tech guy, and the head of HR was aghast. She was like, "What? Why are you dressed like this?" And I was like, "I was told I'm coming to build systems. I'm coming to help the bank." And she was like, "No, you know, you never know who's going to turn up. You never know where you're going to have to go." And as if she knew what she was saying, she looked at me and said, "I want to send you back home, but uh, you are commuting from a very far suburb away from Accra, so we are going to have to take it like that." It was so embarrassing. And she was like, "You couldn't even wear a white shirt." So you see, I'm in my white shirt today. So you couldn't even wear a white shirt. And that was the first day I met the MD. I met everyone, and that was my lesson on how regulated financial institutions, how banks operate, and how you would need to adjust your approach, your outlook, your communication to then provide services. So that was the beginning of a beautiful journey. I had 7 wonderful years in Capital Bank because eventually this financial this savings and loan, which is a step below a universal bank, acquired a banking license, and we became a universal bank. And that gave us more opportunity to show the world and technically Ghana to the greater extent what we had. And till date, I mean, I say it with a sense of pride sometimes, but more, I'm thankful for the opportunity that was given. To date, we have there are many banks that have still not attained to the level that we had attained to by the time we were acquired by one of the largest banks in Ghana, which is GCB Bank. So I post the acquisition. Okay, so before the acquisition, so what happened was even though I entered in as a software engineer, I eventually rose to become the head of development, head of product development and innovation. So now this was a unique role at the time. Now I've met many head of innovations, fintech partnerships in banks now. But we were doing
Yeah.
this almost, in fact, over 10 years ago. And so the role was unique. It was crafted for me. I was given the leeway to recruit, and I was able to recruit some of the best people I've known who are friends to this day. And post the acquisition, some of these highs I supervised are still in GCB Bank today. So GCB Bank took over our unit, and this unit now exists in GCB Bank Ghana, helping move GCB Bank Ghana forward. So I have fond memories, GCB Bank. I have fond memories of GCB Bank Ghana. I have fond memories of Capital Bank Ghana because it gave me the pad to be able to try out my ideas, to be able to convince management, to be able to see thousands and thousands of transactions on the day running on systems that I had architected, I had helped build with my team. So hopefully this is not too long an introduction, and you, Mr. Yali can ask questions.
Not at all, not at all, Papa. I believe that you've done just what we expected from your professional journey to this point, and it's gratifying to see how you have been able to evolve through the years to create a unique value in terms of what Great Parrot IO offers. Moving on, I just want to find out quickly as a leader in the fintech sector, what are some of the core values or principles that guide your approach to leadership? Can you share that with us?
So that's a very good question. And in my earlier submission, you see how I spoke about having to transform myself as a person in terms of how I was perceived by financial institutions.
Right.
So I founded Grey Parrot on three values, just three: being excellence,
Okay.
learning, and then giving. And these are principles that I live by. It's very important, especially when you are coming from Africa in those days. Now it's trendy when we talk about fintech companies. Everybody respects African fintechs. There's investment looking for African fintechs. There's opportunity. The world has come to see that in terms of financial technology, there's no such thing as Africans not understanding. And so
Absolutely.
excellence, when I founded the company, was the primary key value or the primary value. The other two values are supporting and basically giving. So for everything that you do, and anybody in Great Power will tell you that we are very hard on ourselves. We
Right.
are we understand that we are trying to enter a market that is very hard to break into. For anybody who's ever tried to sell business or sell a solution to a bank, you know how long it takes. You know the sales process. You could spend a year and a half just to get into a bank to be able to eventually deploy your solution. So excellence is the principles by which you operate on. And our second value is learning. It's very
Right.
simple. What I say is you can't be excellent if you are not ready to learn. So
Right.
we are very particular about who we hire. We are very sure we want to ensure that you are not the sort of person who wants to be taught because resources are scarce. There has to be an efficient optimization of how we are using resources. We we want people to be able to learn on their own, to be able to go and research. It can be difficult because there are some people who thrive under micromanagement, but I don't believe in that. I never like being micromanaged. I believe that you have to give people room to make mistakes, room for people to grow. And once you do that, you tend to have an environment where there is a constant improvement in how people um, offer themselves. So it's been very excellent. It's been very excellent for us as a company. I'm very proud of my team. I have team members who've been with me for 7 years. I have team members who've been with me for 6 years, 5 years. For as long as the company has existed, I've been blessed by people who have been loyal to me because they believe. Sometimes I tell them that I don't know what made you follow this madman with these mad ideas because these ideas were when I began this journey, it was crazy. It still is crazy. It reminds me of Aliko Dangote in Nigeria and recent interviews he's given on his oil refinery. It's been a
Right.
tough journey. And just again, just to recap, so our first value is excellence, learning, and the final one is giving. We have to give back. I mean, as far as we
Right.
are concerned, for everything we have, we've been given. You've been given life by our creator. You've been given the opportunity to live by the fact that our mothers carried us, or our aunties, or caretakers and caregivers. People taught us how to read, how to use computers. People taught us how to speak. They gave us an opportunity on where to work. So it's important that we give back. So we've been very liberal with our time in terms of training younger ones. We've we do a lot of internships. We've we've had so many people pass through our hands who've been transformed by the values and the policies that we have, and that's been very good. So these three values, it guides basically everything we do at Great Parrot, and I don't see it changing anytime soon. In fact, by our standards, when we self-reflect, we think we still haven't achieved what we want to achieve. So we are constantly improving.
Right. Right. I believe, I mean, these are very important pointers that clearly guide the kind of offering that you've been able to deliver to your customers. And Great Parrot IO clearly is a model for a lot of fintechs and upcoming fintechs to learn and to be able to hone their special skills. If you're just joining us, this is FinTech Africa podcast, organized by Financial Inclusion Africa and FinTech Magazine Africa. And today we are hosting Papa Kwame Anane, who is the founder and CEO of Great Parrot IO. So, Papa, you mentioned a very interesting point about the challenges in cracking, in trying to crack decision-making units when it comes to B2B selling. I've had the opportunity as well to be selling products to such a target, and clearly, just as you rightly mentioned, you need to go through some level of engagement to be able to get their buy-in for final adoption. In this vein, I mean, just linked to anything on challenge, can you share one that you encountered and how you managed to overcome it through your career, through being a founder and CEO of Great Parrot IO?
That's a very good question again. I'm trying to think about which of the challenges
Right,
I should share. But I want to talk about how you handle gatekeepers. You need to understand that if you are in our line of business, you are providing a new platform or a solution that could either take an existing vendor out of business or could take roles that individuals or units in the organization have used to stay relevant.
Right.
So it's very important that you learn to work with all stakeholders.
Right.
In my early years, we've made some mistakes, not understanding that it's important to ensure that you have a buy-in from every unit. You need to make sure that everyone understands that, look, this is going to make your work better. You need to actually give opportunities for your solution to be used by the various units. So once you get buying in that approach, what you then get is you get supporters. You make sure that you are constantly providing them support. You empower the bank's internal units so that they can also become your partners. And
Right.
it's also taking me a while to get to the point where I understand that you need to think of your client as a partner. You don't have to be just a vendor. Because if you're
Right.
just a vendor, the same way that you think that you could provide an important solution is the same way someone might convince the decision makers that, look, we need to change this. So you have to make sure that you are very available. I've made mistakes, and it's been a learning process. And it's one of the things. So you see, we are different. When we normally talk about fintech, a lot of times people assume that the fintech is outside. So people don't
Right.
really know about us because we are enabling banks
Right.
to provide services.
Right.
So we are not an external fintech per se. Everything we do sits within the environment of the bank. We embed ourselves within the bank. We've been in, you also have to understand culture. For example, by being West African, once you go into other parts of Africa, you are going to begin to realize that people might perceive slights based on the way West Africans we relate. I don't think I've ever been in a situation dealing with Nigerians where they felt intimidated by me. I mean, the Nigerians are our big brothers. But what you're going to find out when you start working outside the continent, like we have as a company, you need to understand that the culture is different. So sometimes you would have to set the tone and apologize in advance and let everybody understand that, hey, look, this is how West Africans are. I mean, you may have seen exaggerated versions in Nigerian movies and stuff, but West Africans might come across as being aggressive. It does not mean that there is anger. It does not mean that there's malice intended. So you again need to understand the culture. That's the mistakes I've made in the very first few years. I remember I was in Rwanda. We worked on a fantastic project, and there were many interactions that could have gone better. And over the years, we continue to improve. We continue to let our team understand that if we want to be Pan African, which has been our vision, then we need to become every African. So, like Paul says, that he becomes unto the Greek, Greek, he becomes unto the Jew, the Gentiles, the Gentiles. You have to find a way to embrace the culture because our work involves being embedded. As I said, we are not like a fintech that is external. You need to go hands on. You need to get involved. You need to understand how the bank's internal systems work. They need to trust you. So there's a lot of security that you have to think of.
Right.
So
Right.
hopefully, these two things, I think, how you manage culture and how you deal with internal stakeholders are some challenges you would learn. I mean, for the young ones or the new companies, you would learn. And there's always an advantage. One of the advantages we have at Grey Parrot is that I, for example, was in banking for 7 years. So currently, I was actually in banking much longer than I have been in this company for just about 6 months to a year. I think by the end of the year, then there will be parity. I would have done 14 years of half being in banking and half being on the other side.
Wow, wow, that's very revealing. And I believe that the journey so far gives you a very good perspective because you are in a situation where you have sat in the role of a customer while you're a banker and a product manager in the bank, and then now the roles have switched where you have to actually pitch your products to the bank. So clearly, you are in a space where you have a better understanding of playing a dual role, and I'm sure it has really affected the way you deal with your partners and your customers. Uh, I mean, clearly, from this viewpoint, is it possible to also share what you find most fulfilling about your role as founder and CEO of Great Parrot? I'm sure you just started on some of these things, but just to make it more in a proper context, what do you find most fulfilling about your role at the moment as founder and CEO of Great Parrot?
Thank you. So I'm an Arsenal fan, by the way, and I'm going to
Oh,
use this I'm going to use
right,
this example to paint the picture. So Mikel Arteta was asked, I think last year, that what does he prefer, being a player or being a coach? Because granted, there are difficulties, there are the advantages and disadvantages of each position you find yourself in.
right,
And Mikel gave a very good answer. He said, you know, it's it's nice being a player, but there's something special about leading a team, having a plan, sharing that plan, and seeing it come to light. There's just something special about that. And I agree with Mikel. Um, Even though we may not have achieved our objectives, just like us now, unfortunately, we couldn't achieve our objectives um, last year.
right,
I
right,
It really resonated with me because when I
yeah,
was alone as the first hire in the bank, there was stuff I could do. When I was given the mandate and my team expanded to about six full time, and then with when we expand with intent, maybe seven or eight,
right,
we're able to achieve a lot. Now, this was now within the bank. Now, as Grey Parrot, to see our work currently powering solutions in different countries on the continent. We've been in Zambia, we've been in Rwanda, we've been in Ethiopia, we've been trying to get into Cote d'Ivoire, we've been trying to get into other countries, and to have built this team. Now, trust me, I mean, it was much more comfortable. By now, if I was a group CIO, in this journey, it would have been much more comfortable. There'll be less
mm,
stress. All
yeah,
the mental trauma that I've gone through in trying to build this company,
yeah,
that may have been avoided. Fact.
right,
But
right,
there's an even greater fact that I have I know that I have been able to train people, been able to, as a company, we've been able to go outside Ghana. We've raised the flag of Ghana high, and we've raised the flag of Africa high as well. It's There's just something different about that. I must say, there's just something different about that. And those who know me know I don't really enjoy being a CEO, but the fact is, the vision and what I see and why I see Great Parrot is so strong that if you don't get up and do what you can see in your mind's eye, nobody else is going to do it. So I look forward to having more companies in the space, and I want to encourage. There are many people now who are in banks. You are leading innovation teams. You are leading software engineering teams within banks. I want to encourage you to make the leap. I want to encourage you to make the leap. Africans understand African business. We understand the African culture. We know the solutions that will make our people happy. And by trading amongst ourselves, which has always been what I really want, I want to see an Africa where our young people don't just travel across the desert, jump in boats. The number of Africans that die in the sea, I think that if we can help, it will be very important.
great, 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 Papa. I mean, these are very important nuggets, and I believe that clearly it is important for us to think Pan African as a continent. And clearly, we can say that the fintech success story of Africa will actually develop and will further be ballooned even in a more stable format and form, and will change the way the global world does business, globally, or how business is done. And I'm sure that clearly these are very important nuggets that you've shared, and we'll pick a lot from that. Uh, just to moving on, just also want to find out to in trying to build such a business such as Great Parrot IO, with a passion of changing the fintech landscape and ensuring that financial inclusion is achieved, in respect of how you support financial institutions and banks across board. Is it possible to highlight a mentor or any influential figure who has played a pivotal role in shaping your career to this point? Is it possible to share any such information with all of us this morning?
Yes, yes. Um, I would like I think I might be name dropping a bit. Um, and I apologize in advance to my mentors who might not want to be name dropped. But it's very important that I give credit where credit is due. Um, obviously, um, first and foremost, um, I'm a firm believer in Jesus Christ. I believe that Jesus is our King, He's our Lord and Savior, and I'm not ashamed of the gospel of Jesus Christ. It's the power of God unto salvation, and when we say it's the power of God unto salvation, it's not just salvation of our souls, but or our spirits or our bodies. It's also of our bodies and everything. So um, I cannot move. I cannot tell you that I was able to accomplish this on my own because it's been by the direction of the Holy Spirit who used people because God uses people to bless people. And I want to first start by acknowledging Dr. Boajoshri. He's a lecturer at the University of Ghana who made time to listen to me when I was a young um, teenager in my early years. I had this dream of starting a company. He advised me, he listened to me. I could book sessions for him where he had time for me. And he would he would guide me on what to do. Like for example, when I had joined the bank and I was so green, he said, look, you need to take on a business persona. You need to understand how business works. He encouraged and advised that I do an executive MBA. And even though I did that over 10 years ago, till date, there are things that I probably would have messed up without the MBA. I know people say a lot about the value of an MBA. For someone who comes from an engineering background, so my background is engineering. I did geodetic engineering from the Kwame Nkrumah University of Science and Technology. I began by writing a lot of code. I was purely technical. So to transition, he was very instrumental. And then I also want to thank Osa Thompson Mensah, who was he was the executive director of First Capital Plus Savings and Loans, which became Capital Bank. He believed in me. He gave me the leeway. They gave me room to make mistakes. And I cannot be where I am today, especially in the fintech space. If I'd gone into the health sector, I probably would be in providing, providing health tech. If I'd gone into another industry, I probably would have been. But we all know that the financial services actually employs a lot of people, and it actually employs a lot of people in technology. So I'm grateful for Osa Thompson Mensah. And also, I'm also grateful to Reverend Fitzgerald Odonko, who became an MD in Capital Bank. Again, he even gave me further room to experiment. He was always ready to listen on ideas that I had, whether the ideas were going to be correct or wrong. They They gave me the confidence, really. And I cannot say thank you enough to them. And for those who've helped me, because this journey, this month, I believe, is Mental Health Awareness Month for men. And there's a lot of stress that by speaking to other CEOs, you come to the understanding that whatever you were going through when you're trying to build your company is not unique. There's nothing new under the sun. Trying to build a company is one of the hardest things that can ever be done. And we need to encourage more people to do it. So I also want to thank Mr. Kofi Enyine Watson. Um, if he hears this, I want to say I'm very grateful. He's one of my advisors. I actually went last week for more advice. I mean, when you start a company, you are going to be in a lonely place. So it's very important to have advisors. And then for those who've gone before us, I also want to thank again another of my advisor who is Mr. Enin. And this looks like a rap album where I'm giving all the shout outs to all. But it's very important to give back, as I've said. And to the CEOs who began the fintech journey, Alex Bramov, Haptel now, I've worked with them, Curtis of Express Pay, Deridin of Dream Mobile, all of these ones, Kofi Owusu Inshira. I've known a lot of these guys for many years, many years. They inspired me, and once I began this journey, they continue I occasionally speak to them. Big Godwin of Websoft Solutions and many other business interests. So the CEOs and all these vendors who used to come in when I was in the bank, and so the relationship began as we are working on having their software or their platforms in our bank. And then once I left, um, they've anytime I pick up the phone, they answer, and I'm very grateful to them for all the other tech CEOs. So that's it. That's been a long shout out. My parents, my wife, Ethel Kofi. I need to actually stop because even if you give me the chance, I'm going to shout out to a lot of people. But we need to help each other. I guess what I'm trying to say is that we need to
Yeah,
understand that it's important that we help ourselves, help each other, because without that, we don't grow together.
absolutely. Absolutely. Thank you so much, Papa Kwame. Viewers, once again, you're welcome to Fintech Africa podcast by Financial Inclusion Africa and Fintech Magazine Africa. Today we have Papa Kwame Anane, who is the CEO and founder of Great Parrot IO, and he's sharing some perspectives with us in terms of what his company stands for and the fact that they are driving digital transformation and innovation in the markets that they have been able to work in so far. Papa, back to one of the personal questions that will come to you in terms of the advice that you give to aspiring professionals looking to pursue a career in fintech or leadership roles within the industry. What do you think that should be? Uh, Clearly, the fintech industry in Ghana has evolved over the years. I remember the days when the industry started with a product like an EMI service where there was a use of syntax. You had basically had to put together a set of syntaxes on SMS, and then through that you can be able to terminate your transaction via short code. And Clet was very new, and clearly that market that we have today, or perhaps what we have today, had not been created. And so it meant that fintechs and all players had to do kind of redo or perhaps even re-strategize by trying to educate customers more than trying to promote products. And that actually helped to change the narrative of how products were adopted. And today we can say that we are moving to the maturity stage of the industry. And clearly, we can't be able to make a lot of gains across the verticals in terms of health tech, in terms of land tech, in terms of wealth tech, in terms of femtech, tech across all the verticals. So what advice will you give to aspiring professionals? Clearly, I can say that the market is so rife, and there are many opportunities that can be pursued across the verticals than we used to have in the past.
Yes, yes. So, what I would like to tell professionals is don't be afraid. Um, there are many people who have great ideas. There are many people who are currently working in institutions and they have ideas and designs of trying to set out on their own. I want to encourage you to do it. Is it going to be easy? Absolutely not. It's not going to be easy. But everything we enjoy currently is the result of some people putting in the hard work. So if I also want to speak especially to the young techpreneurs, for those who want to be technology entrepreneurs like I wanted to be, you need to really understand the industry. You really, really need to understand an industry and understand that things take time. So be ready to embed yourself. There are some CEOs of some startups that I would advise that if you can go on a sabbatical where you spend a year working for the client that you want to provide to in future, it's actually going to be way more beneficial. Because if I came out of the bank, the solutions I come out with, no matter how intelligent or how smart you think your systems are, unless you have people who came out from the bank to truly understand the banking problems, first of all, it's going to be difficult for you to solve the problem. Because when I make a sale, I tell them, I know you are facing X, Y, Z because I faced it. It's easier. And having been in that industry, you would realize that you would have had the opportunity to experiment with various ways of solving the problem. So if you find yourself trying in insurtech, for example, and you think you have great ideas about insurance, my advice is if you cannot be as a founder, if you cannot be deeply embedded for a while, for a long time to truly understand how the business works, it's it would be good to get a co-founder who actually comes out from such an industry. Because right now, I can give advice to banks on issues on supply chain financing, on issues on receivables collections, on issues of channels, on issues of you just name it, automation, operational efficiency. Because I've been in there, I've been embedded, I've seen the issues that came up at Malcolm, and I would also advise that when you are in there, just speak to the customer care or the customer experience unit. You are going to hear what the customers want. You are going to see what the pain points are. And once you do that, believe me, you are going to have a solution that already has a product market fit. So um, I would want to encourage people to step out. If you are watching this, if you're my friend, you've known me, it's not going to be easy, but it's going to be worth it because we need to think of our generations unborn. We need to think of our children's children. We need to make sacrifices that don't necessarily benefit us to the fullest, but we know that we are leaving something behind. So that has to be with it. So all the industries, it doesn't matter whether you're in health tech, and especially if you're a technical person, find an industry. There are a lot of solutions required by the health industry, lots of solutions in agric, lots of solutions in legal, you name it. Any industry that has existed for a long time can benefit from operational efficiency improvement, can benefit on innovation and strategic thrust that will help them make more money or save loss or save the losses that they are making. So that would be my advice. It's a lot of words, but if you can pick out the nuggets of what I'm saying, the parts that speak to you, just run with it. You'll be fine.
Right. Thank you so much. Talking about pain points, just to move on, is it possible to also share the ways in which Great Parrot IO, as an organization, aims to address the unique financial needs and challenges faced by your target market in the African market? How are you able to address the unique financial needs and challenges? You've shared some of these instances and use cases previously while we've had this discussion. But just to clearly zero in on the kind of unique selling propositions that you have in terms of the ways that you aim to address the unique needs of customer requirements. How are you able to do that, and how do you aim to address the concerns in terms of requirement of customers? Because I mean, clearly, customer pain point is something that needs to be managed properly and needs to be uh, if you like, analyzed properly to arrive at offering the right solutions and products.
Yeah. Um, this is this is a very good question. So as I mentioned, let's start by the whole premise. I mean, of our discussions. We talk about financial inclusion, and our understanding of financial inclusion is hopefully everybody in the world who is capable of being part of the financial system has the opportunity to do so. But there are challenges. First of all, we need to think about access. And so, the way we empower our banking clients with the issue of access is to help them on their channel strategy. And Africa is unique. So, for example, you need to think about how Africans are going to be interacting with financial services, the channels that they are going to use. And as a bank, first and foremost, do you have the relevant platforms or frameworks and infrastructure that would help you make sure that your channels are operating at the full capacity? So I'll give you an example. Most banks are not, for example, omni-channel in nature. They are multi-channel. So case in point, you're going to have the USSD being operated by a different system. People have to enter their passwords many times across the ATMs or their internet banking or some other system that they are using. It's difficult to share information. It's even possible that customers may have their names saved differently on different systems on a channel that they perceive to come from the same bank. So with situations like this, is what we do is we actually provide solutions, or we work with some international partners to help banks come up with systems like API gateways. For example, we currently have an API gateway project ongoing in Zambia, where we'll be able to harmonize all APIs that exist within the bank. Because when we talk about the digital innovation or financial inclusion, it begins from APIs. And it's very essential that everybody in the organization understands that APIs are valuable, APIs are a product. It's also essential that everybody in the organization understands that there is a lot of value that exists that is sitting within the bank itself. That gives more opportunities for money to be made, more opportunities for more customers to be acquired. So you might think, for example, that all the data that you have sitting in your data reservoir is just for storage. But I will tell you that no, there's a lot of insights you can glean from the data that you've saved over the years that can help you come up with customized packages based on the behavior of some of your customers. So you're able to come up with products that will make sense so that you don't just go and pick a product from another bank or from Europe because you've heard that this is how it worked. Africa is unique. You need to invest in channels such as USSD. So we Great Proud, for example, for over 4 years, we've been perfecting a USSD solution for banks and for other organizations that allows them to easily integrate into their systems. And this is basically a no-code solution. It's a no-code USSD app solution. You will realize that because USSD is a problem unique to Africa, the Western companies are not going to solve it for us. Most people also think that the people who use USSD, in terms of the lifetime value that you are going to get from such customers, might not be more. So it will make sense to focus on government business or corporate business or SME business. But what I advise my innovation heads in the banks that we are providing services to is to leave no stone unturned. So you need to start from even the lowest. Of course, that's why you have a retail banking unit or a personal banking unit, whichever names that are being used. And then you also need to think about SMEs. Sometimes we also think that financial inclusion means that once a person has got the bank account, then he's financially included, or the mobile account. And reports now say that we have about 75% of adults in the world who at least have a bank account or a mobile money wallet. But is that it? Is that financial inclusion? I don't think so. I strongly believe that financial inclusion should mean that there is resources to be able to give things like credit. There's resources to be able to give things like wealth, investments, and a lot of the things that exist that we think we can only give to customers that we think are less risky. So we have solutions. I mean, as Grapper, we have solutions for all of that. We have solutions that help retail banking. We also have solutions in digital lending, for example, that can help banks finance the supply chain of their customers. Because think about it, you're a bank, you have an SME who, or you have a big company, a big blue chip company that is providing products to a distributor or a wholesaler. The bank should get in there to help in the financing need. Now the banks have challenges because we really need to understand if you, for example, you live in an environment where there's a lack of a centralized collateral registry, for example, if your systems are not interoperable, then it's going to be difficult to roll out some of these things because the risks are elevated. But however, you can always start from somewhere. You can minimize risk by dealing with your own big customers and their customers. The way I say it is, think about this. I am a parent. I want to pay school fees. I bank with Bank A. The school I pay school fees to banks with Bank A. But sometimes, I mean, this is just a hypothetical example. That doesn't exist in my case. I have to go withdraw money in cash out of my bank, then go to my school and pay in cash. This is an opportunity missed. So we have to be ready to take risk as banks. I say as banks because I've been a banker and I still consider myself a banker. We need to be ready to take risk as banks. We need to be ready to invest in African businesses because it's easier. African businesses understand the African customers. You think about micro lending solutions, people wanting salary advances. It's the reality of the economy that we are in. So, how do you come up with solutions like this? How are you able to measure credit worthiness of some of these things? So, it has to do with combining all the data. So, you need to understand that your data unit in your bank, your infrastructure unit, your innovation unit, your support unit, all of these units in technology have to work together so that you can provide real solutions that solve real problems for real people. And banks shouldn't just be interested in things like which can be peculiar with government bonds and bigger companies. It doesn't grow the economy. So thank you. Thank you very much. Hang on a second. Okay. So, just in case I'm still live, I think I want to talk about the work culture in Grey Parrot, talk about how we build solutions, talk about how we form teams, so that for organizations or startups that want to go into this sort of business can also have an idea. So it's essential that you're able to have loyal people who provide a tech for you. Grey Parrot is actually an ISV, we're an independent software vendor or an original equipment manufacturer, if you want to use that term. So this means that we build our own software and we do a lot of integrations. Apologies, it turns out that I was on mute. So I'm talking about what I was saying before I went on mute was it's essential that you think about how you build your team. It's essential that you have a team that remains loyal. You need trust from your clients. We operate in a heavily regulated industry. You also need to take into account. Okay, there's been a little bit of technical challenges, but it's fine. I'd like to continue. So I'm speaking about your team. Your team is very important. Your team is going to have to assure banks who are risk averse that look, it's okay to trust in this African company. It's okay to trust in this team of people who are about to provide solutions. Because note, I said we are an independent software vendor. So it's not like we pick solutions from Europe and then come and deploy. No, 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 no. So we go through a lot of scrutiny. We go through a lot of intellectual challenge, and we welcome it. We actually welcome it because where we need to go to requires that we need to consider ourselves as being able to provide solutions equal to or better than what is currently on the market. So I'll give you an example. Let's think about core banking software. We have large organizations that provide banking software, the underlying software that empowers or powers a whole bank. You have companies in America that provide core banking software. You have Oracle. You have companies in India or Asia. Let me make it more generic. You have companies in Europe, Terminals, one of the largest. And I believe there will be companies in South America who will be providing solutions to South American clients. And I'm talking top tier banks. How many top tier banks are using a core banking solution that has been done by an African organization? And that has to change because it will surprise you if you want to run a bank, a very small bank, and you want to use a core banking system that is that it's fit for purpose. If you're not careful, you're not going to spend less than 2 million USD. So there's an opportunity for African businesses to collaborate together, for African businesses to come together and to provide solutions for our own continent. And so that's the goal. I mean, hopefully, in a few years, maybe a decade, we're going to have one of the largest banks on the continent using a core banking system that was developed by Great Parrot. Then, once I get to that point, I I can begin to think about okay, what next? So, anyway, I've just been
Yes.
sharing with our viewers.
So sorry to everyone. Just a little bit of network disruption there. So, Papa, you've shared a lot, and I just want us to wrap up the
Yeah,
conversation.
yeah.
Uh, in terms of the key milestones that you've achieved, I believe that it's been abundantly clear from this.
Okay, so in terms of the key milestones, I think when we started the company, one of our biggest goals was to become Pan African. And currently, as we speak, we are very excited to have business clients outside Ghana. In the past, in the past 4 years, I would say, or 3 years, we've had implementations that have been going on outside Ghana. And that is actually very good. It's very inspiring because in the early days, we saw how Nigerian companies provided a lot of software to Ghana, whether it was through being channel partners for the big organizations or providing services that helped. So I'm very happy. I mean, when I see that we have thousands of transactions happening in a country that sometimes takes me, if you're traveling from Ghana to Zambia, for example, sometimes you can spend maybe 12 hours in the air because travel is still a problem on the continent. So I have friends, brothers, and sisters on the other side of the continent who are using a solution that was built by Ghanaians. It's exciting. And in terms of what we want next, we want to provide more opportunity, expand our team because we believe that if our goal of having a continental presence in every country, we want to expand our team. We're also working. We're starting out a channel partner program, which should go live. So if there's any um, body listening to me and you are in a country and you have an understanding of B2B sales to banks specifically, feel free to reach out to me on LinkedIn and we can see how best we can add you onto our channel partner program so that we can grow together.
Thank you very much, Papa, and thank you to all viewers. This is what we have time for. The conversation has basically centered on digital transformation and innovation for financial inclusion. Once again, this is Fintech Africa podcast, powered by Financial Inclusion Africa and Fintech Magazine Africa. We'll see you the next time as we delve into other conversations. Thank you.
Thank you very much. And hopefully we can have conversations on specific aspects of banking in other